Hi, and welcome to another edition of the RSS with myself, Rashid Saleh, and of course Jason Sim, aka the Cushingite. We've got another podcast discussion where we delve deeper into, I suppose, my career this time around, because we've sort of skirted the, I would say skirted the issue, but we've talked not so much in depth, but I think this time around we'll go slightly deeper without getting anyone in trouble, except myself. But I guess that's why you want to go ahead, because I think there's been a lot of questions from the audience or people outside in terms of how I got into the career and how I dealt with certain aspects in my career. But which part of my career do you want me to be talking about?
I mean, I've been getting a lot of requests from people who watch our podcast, and by people I mean like me, maybe my mom. But then, just pick your brain as like a veteran, like creative, and just figure out how do you make it in an industry like this. Maybe in terms of mentality and stuff like that. But like before we start, like how you describe yourself, like how you define who you are.
Oh, I was once asked this, and I said I was a professional bum. So I get paid for doing nothing. I remember telling people, so what do you do? I said, I'm a professional bum. So, huh? I said, yeah, I get paid to do nothing. I'm like, oh. And just shuts them up. But the real answer is, well, it's pretty much what I call, and I do now, call myself a man for all seasons. So the industry that we're in, or rather that I'm in, has different aspects. So you're either in front of the camera, behind the camera, in front of the scene, behind the scene. So I've worked with, and pretty much in almost all areas of the industry. So a man of all seasons, I suppose that's for my industry. I can't call myself just a performer or an actor anymore, because I've been able to deal with all aspects of the industry over the years. So it's pretty much, I wouldn't call myself a jack of all trades, because jack of all trades, master of none. Actually, there's a longer saying to that, but I have mastered quite a few areas of being Jack.
Okay, so as a jack of all trades, was it like a conscious decision to not specialize into one little thing? Is it because you have wide-ranging interests, or was it like the available jobs at the time, and just the state of the industry in Malaysia in general? Like what made you like just not be an actor?
All of the above.
Yeah.
You pretty much touched on every single aspect. So it was availability of the jobs. It was the challenge of wanting to know what was beyond just being an actor. A lot of us, a lot of my friends who have been in the business, someone like, for example, Tony Yusuf. His strength is he's really good at acting. He's really good at singing. So he does a lot of acting. He doesn't want to have anything to do with directing. He has no ambitions to become director. I've spoken to him about that. And he'll pretty much confirm it to everyone. He does musical theatre. He knows how to sing. He will do if there was a TV musical, he will do it. Film musical, he'll do it. Anything in front of the camera, in terms of, or in front on stage, where he can perform as an actor or a musical actor, he will do it. He has no intentions, any ambitions at the moment. Although I have spoken to him about wanting to be behind the scenes or becoming a director. It's like, no, that's too much for me. I just want to be doing what I'm good at, which he is, and he's very, very good at what he does. I'm of the ilk where I've always had this propensity to want to learn something new within my industry, because I always feel that I want to know what goes on beyond it. Even when I was starting off shooting Kopitiam, I'd follow Ping Ho, and he would reluctantly take me to to go to the post-production to watch the post-production process because I wanted to know what it was like. So from there, I was like, oh, I could do this, I could do that. Not because I wasn't good at what I did. I was getting good to what I did, but I wanted to know what goes beyond that. When I remember shooting in New Zealand in 2004 for Mr. Cinderella 2, I spent a lot of time whilst I was not shooting my scenes. I had like 19 scenes in New Zealand. One of my best shoots because 19 scenes in New Zealand, one scene in KL. So all my scenes were like in New Zealand, which is great.
It's a good gig.
Oh God, okay, I'll do it. And this is it was that good gig, and this is before the earthquake and stuff. But in between my shoots, I would be with the crew. Most actors will go, they'll go off and do their own thing on their day off. No, I wanted to be with the crew. I was there. I learned about the cameras and all that, and just generally, I wasn't a nuisance, but I learned to be around to because I wanted to know what it was like to shoot a film. And because we were away, I mean, it's not like I could go home. I'll go fly home for the day. I was in New Zealand. I just enjoyed the atmosphere, and I just had this thing of wanting to always improve myself or learn the process so that I could understand better what my industry was like. So I always look at it from a bigger point of view rather than individually. Yes, I would be very competent in what I did because I grew up learning to become an actor anyway. Being on stage, we know our jobs are here, we do it well. But outside of that, I always knew I think I was going to be more than just an actor or a performer on stage.
So you mentioned availability of jobs, right? I mean, so would you say it would be a harder path if you just stuck to acting?
I do feel that, but I was also very lucky in the sense that I'm one of those actors who are multilingual. There are actors, and especially in Malaysia, and the money is there. So you don't feel that you need to go beyond another language. So obviously in Malaysia, there are a lot of jobs for Malay-speaking roles, or now, I mean, it doesn't matter whether you're acting or you're a presenter or you're a comedian. There are lots of work if you're good at it. I was lucky because I was able to switch between the two main languages, which is Bahasa Malaysia and English. So obviously I got a lot more work from English because the competition wasn't there as much. I mean, of course, you had, at the time, who were my seniors, you had Harith, Aflin, Hans. There were other actors. This is prior to social media, okay? Yeah. So remember, I need to stress this because once social media came out, a whole lot of, it was a whole lot of influencers and all that, and now you've got influencers who are actors. But then, there were not many of us. So we were considered sort of elite because we were able to do this. And it was a good time then because I was able to switch between doing both Malay productions and English productions as well. And I just wished I had learned Mandarin or Cantonese much earlier in my life because I would have conquered everything. Someone like right now, Douglas Lim, he can do everything because he can do Cantonese, he can do Mandarin, he can do English, he can do Malay. And you've seen him in Malay films now, and he does stand up. He's in around the world, and yeah, he writes, he directs television. So he's very lucky, and he can sing. So yeah, once you're multi-talented like that, and there are not many of us who do that. I mean, I don't sing, but Douglas goes beyond that. The only thing I have above him is I do sports, and I'm a sports presenter.
So you've done acting, you pivoted to, you've done, obviously worked in events, and you pivoted to acting and directing, maybe not in the order, yeah.
No, it's all jumped. I've been a presenter, I've been an MC, we do voiceovers, we do narration, we write scripts, We direct television. We've produced as well.
So were you chasing an opportunity, or was it just based on interest at the time, or for you to like just move, just industries just like that?
Again, there were two things. One was demand. When you're in demand, then when it rains, it pours. They say, right?
Oh.
When you're in demand, you don't turn things down. I even tell even the younger actors now and the younger performers or the younger talents now, I said, if you get the opportunity, do it. Don't think twice, because you don't know when your next gig is going to be. And with the gig economy, especially the gig industry, in our industry, you never know when your next job is going to be. So I keep telling them, just do it, but do it with the integrity that you do it well.
What do you think? Sorry, go ahead. No, what do you think are the kind of skills that people need to have?
Again, depends. I mean, if you're, we say what kind of qualifications do you need? You need to be able to speak. You need to be able to not be afraid to be in front of the camera, or it is one. You must have communication skills. That's the one very important aspect of being in this industry. However, as an actor, of course, we have, there are you do go to university. There are acting degrees and all that, performance degrees. Or you go to or art school. Well, performing arts schools and stuff, and get you can go RADA. You can there's so many. And you do not belittle them, because it is very hard. Or you go and do courses with actor studio, or train. You must train as an actor. It's just a different type of training. Yes, you get a different certificate. It doesn't mean that it's less than getting an accounting degree, because you are an expert of your job. And that's one thing that people seem to forget, that just because you love doing what you do doesn't mean that it's less than what of another job. I mean, there are many people who are in corporate who may have their degrees and all that, but they're really bad human beings, and they don't know how to communicate well. I've seen guys who haven't had degrees but now are top guys. I mean, you don't need to not just in business but in other things as well.
So, you've worn a lot of different hats, different roles. Would you say you have a favorite, and is there one that actually pays the best? And are they often the same thing?
Again, for me individually, I suppose my favorite, I've mentioned this many times, was when I was working with ESPN. It was pretty much a career kind of job, because it was something that made me really appreciate what I was doing, and the industry. Obviously, the company itself made you feel like you belong there. ESPN was very much probably the most professional career that I embarked on, and that made me look at the world differently, and also treated how I treated my work properly. And it taught me a lot in the 3 years that I was there. And they were long 3 years, were really good 3 years. And it was the first time that people treated you like you belonged there, and they respected you for the job that you are. I had a lot of friends who were jealous of what I did, because they're like, oh, you're being paid to do sports. But it was more than just doing sports or covering sports. It was a job. And you had to be really good at it, because you can't just, fake your way through it, I suppose.
So you would be a sports presenter all day, every day?
I could be a sports presenter or sports journalist, or broadcast journalist, talk about sports. I mean, I grew up in sports. I grew up playing rugby. I was really good at tennis. I still play golf. Any sports.
Did it happen to pay the best? Maybe. Acting could potentially pay a lot more.
Because
maybe, but
I don't want to talk about Timor, but
okay.
yeah, okay. I guess so. For that job, yes. It was probably the best, yes.
So
Well, actually, no, because well, I can't really talk about. Yeah, it was one of the best paid jobs I've had. Yes,
so why not stick to sports announcement? Why did you pivot again?
because I had the opportunity to work. Well, when I was when I pivoted to, I mean, after ESPN, it was still sports as well, Astro Arena.
Yeah.
So I got headhunted to do Astro Arena, and then you asked me, it's like, is it the best paid job?
Okay, yeah.
Well, so again, it's subjective, isn't it?
Yeah.
So it depends, and then when I went to Timor after that, then you ask, oh, is the, again, it all depends on.
I mean, so
It
it
was
paid
very-
well and you loved the job.
Yes, but yeah, in that sense, yes. But again, I loved my job in Timor because it was different. There was some sports element to it, of course, because we were also managing some sports propaganda there as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, we keep referencing Timor without any context.
One day I will write in my
Okay.
in my book.
So,
But
okay.
Timor was I could talk. We will do an edition on Timor one day. Trust me, I will open up more about it. It was a unique experience, living in Timor and working in Timor and being in and out of Timor. The last, I don't know. I mean, the last time I was there was 2018. But I love Timor. It was a place that reshaped the way I looked at life. That's why it's so important for me.
Okay, we got to do an
career.
episode on Timor.
Right.
I mean, we can't just keep doing this.
But going back to
Throwing breadcrumbs,
yeah,
you know.
I will always throw those breadcrumbs. It's like, "Yee, chi, 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 chi."
So why do you pivot from sports? And then again, like, what areas are you looking at as I call it jack of all trades again. I know you don't want to use that term, but man of all seasons. Okay, so is it just job availability, or you don't have one where you're like specifically interested in?
I ask myself this all the time, whether I am just good at one thing, and I realized that I enjoy other things too much to just stick to one thing. If you were to tell me, really force me to do one whole thing, yeah, I would say yes, sports. I would do anything in terms of getting into the sports industry and sports business, because it is a billion-dollar industry. And if you know what to do, and you don't have to necessarily do the sports or do sports events, a lot of things around it. I was very lucky to have worked with a gentleman called Mr. Colin, and he was the owner of this brand called Amnic. It's a Malaysian brand, and Colin Chiang, he was a man from Perak, and he had worked for Schwarzenbach and also Adidas. He used to supply for Adidas and other brands as well. He's not sure whether he still has a factory in Cambodia, and also in Malaysia. If you look it up, they have their own brand. It's really good quality, slightly pricier than the local brands, but it's really good quality. I was there. I went under his wing for a few years. It was 2017, I think, and learned a lot from him. He's an accountant by profession. He should be in his late 60s, and who is one of my mentors. And he'd always been interested in sports and all that. We were also when I was sort of working with him, we were also the sponsors for the apparel sponsors for the Sime Darby LPGA tournament when it was still held in KL was TPC at the time. What's the KLG GCC? And that was the last time. It was the last time before Maybank took over. And it was great. The brand, it's a great brand. He taught me all about sports branding, and he taught me how to look at it from a business point of view, and he's taught me a lot. And we also did the duathlon in Perak as well, in Manjung, called Silverman, of which I was the CEO. We organized the duathlon there successfully in 2017 as well. And yeah, so he literally gave me no, I wouldn't say crash course. He taught me how to look at it from financially, and how in the long run you can build a business from this type of sports events. Whereas before I always looked at it from an events point of view.
Yeah.
And he gave me a different perspective on how to run these sports events, and how to build a business from sports. And yeah, I learned a lot because he was an apparel manufacturer.
Yeah.
So I saw that side of the business, which was so valuable in terms of how I look at now. I look at apparels. I know what to look at, and I know what works and what doesn't. I may not have the experience, a lot more experience than I should have, but because of that, I've learned to see how sports apparels or how branding can be done properly, and it was so valuable. And I'm very thankful to him for being my mentor in that stage of my life, because he really taught me how to look at sports from a different point of view, especially from a branding point of view. And that, to me, until today, is something that I will always cherish. So yeah, it wasn't just being a sports presenter, but overall, and looking at sports as a business opportunity, massive. And here in Sarawak, we can work with a lot of, if we know how to market it and we know how to speak to the companies and brand their products alongside with the sports that we have. Wow, a win-win for everyone.
Yeah, so it's very evident, like, your love for the sports industry, sports media. So just to give context to the question, like, I mean, I started in journalism. I worked in a newspaper, and I had experience in like marketing, a little bit in PR, then did digital marketing, then now I design content for museums. Like, for someone who's just, and you're obviously someone who loves sports, but then you still you do directing. I mean, you still do comedy. You want to do stand up and stuff like that. Is it is it for monetary reasons, or do you feel this need to like just flex a creative muscle, like to just try different things? I mean, and what do you say to people who just can't specialize like that?
Well,
like people like me,
Yeah, well, here's the thing. You've got to start compartmentalizing stuff. So for me, as you know, I love my sports. So the one thing that I need to do now, looking at options that we have here, especially now we've got Sukma, we may or most probably have the SEA Games in 2027. Right. So now we've got something to look forward to. We've got 5, 6, 7, 3 years. So to try and get involved with that. So one is, where do we position ourselves as individuals? What areas can I do? So I know my strengths are in sports broadcasting. Oh. So we try and get involved in that, whether locally or we bring in expertise into that, try and work with either the ministry or whoever, or the TV stations or other TV stations, or bring in experts and go, hey, can we do this?
Because the opportunity is there.
The opportunity is there.
Yeah.
2, obviously, when you say that is where the money, for us, the business.
Yeah.
So you try and work the business to where my company, Rushmont PR, for example, goes, where the PR opportunities that we can now present to whoever that needs to be the organizer and say, can we offer you our consultancy from this point of view, and our expertise and our experience and the network that we have, to help build the SEA Games brand for Sarawak from now to 2027. That's from the business point of view. On the creative side, I'll be going, okay, now as a comedian, I will start talking about sports. I will build my material around sports to help brand myself and promote myself in terms of, get people talking about sports, look at the funny side of sports, blah, 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 and geared towards 20%. Everything needs to be geared towards that. And then to go to individual sports. What kind of sports are going to be in there? Is there a possibility for us to go, if we have the time, can we organize smaller sports events leading up to that? At the same time, using the company that we have or another company, if you have one, and start speaking to companies that could help with the product. Is there a way for us to help? For example, would it be feasible if I go and speak to an apparel company and go, a local apparel company, what can we do to help you, because at the end of the day, everything, somebody's got to do the medals, somebody's got to do lanyards, somebody's got to do the promo materials. All this, apart from just the athletes. So we could even go to the TV station. Do you want us to be doing the promotions for the athletes? Can we work with a brand or with for example, I don't want to name brands, but the sports brands go, can we have a local brand start be the sponsors and promote them towards for the Malaysian athletes, for example, or if there's a Saraukan-based athlete who's qualified for the SEA Games, start promoting them, because I'm sure people in Semenanjung will be doing that, or work or collaborate with the Semenanjung people, and then work towards 2027. So there are many aspects. It's what you want to do. So from a business point of view, you can do it that way, or from a creative point of view, I do it that way, or have more sports events now to gear up towards 2027. As a broadcast journalist, we start training our journalists to be more sports centric, to look at what kind of narrative do you want, sports narrative do you want to be geared, which can blend in with the tourism, which can blend in with our culture. You could have, for example, we have our Saraukan diver who's in the Olympics right now. Go and research his background. Why are there, and we know this, why are there so many good swimmers and divers coming from Sarawak who have represented Wilson Sim, Pandalela, Nicholas Omar, Tanya Bugo. You can go all the way back and you've noticed a lot of the swimmers have come from Sarawak. Why? You can do a whole documentary on that. Yeah. So many little things. If you just do the little bit research and do it properly, so that will be more Sarawak centric, but it's still going to get towards 2027. Are we going to have a Sarawakan swimmer representing Malaysia at the 2027 SEA Games? All that can happen. So you have all these narratives, all these stories that you can be geared towards in any way we do. I could put that material into my, my stand-up stuff. I can talk about, how we're not good at shooting, but we got a lot of swimmers. That means probably our guys, there could be a joke there. It's like, our sperms are better when it comes to swimming towards our target.
So you mentioned earlier on when we were talking about acting, right? There was only a few of you. So, like, how do you think about like branding yourself, networking, getting jobs, and do you feel they are like gatekeepers in this industries?
I think in those days, because we were multilingual, that there weren't that many gatekeepers. There will always be gatekeepers in any industry. In the Malay industry, you will always have the older stalwarts in the industry who feel threatened. I was one of those who, as I gotten older, I would want to encourage the younger generation because it helps us do better. for example, whenever I was doing well as an actor, my next challenge was to direct. So when I started directing, well, as I gotten better, I always would see younger actors. I encourage them to do well, and my advice is always go do in theatre. Don't worry about anyone else. Just do it, and then when we're there, we'll help you. But I was always like, when you're doing well in acting, I'll probably be directing you. We have a good laugh about it because I'll always be one stage ahead. But yes, when I was in the industry, yeah, there were people who were, and it's natural, I guess, when they feel that you're better than them, they do feel threatened. But you see a lot of that more in theatre, because theatre, there's a lot of egos involved. So they don't just gatekeep, but they try and, like, I wouldn't say destroy your career, but they'll make you look bad because they feel that you are, especially us as comedians, because and I've played the dumb guy in Kopitiam. I wouldn't say the dumb guy. Lights on but no one home. Joe from Kopitiam. It's like Joe in Friends.
Yeah.
So people have this perception that because I played a guy who was not quite there in television, that I would be the same persona. Art imitates life. They
You're not?
say.
Oh.
Yeah. What?
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah. So, I wouldn't be speaking like this if I was. Let me tell you that. But yeah, of course, when we're younger, you will be seen like that because when you're, and I tell myself,
Typecast,
you're so immersed in your character, people seem to think that you are there. Yeah, yes, of course, you get typecasted, but it comes with the territory, I guess.
Okay. So one thing we haven't spoken much about is like the mentality, like the mental side of being maybe a creative. I mean, it's hard enough being creative in Malaysia. Like we know, getting jobs may not be certain. People may not understand like this career path that you chose. It can be lonely at times. So how do you deal with you obviously had some dry moments where maybe the auditions are not coming in, maybe the jobs are not coming in. So what do you say to people who's like going through stuff like that?
I think in any, and not just creative, I think when you are your own business, or you are your own, when you rely on yourself, I think it's across the board in any job. When it is the gig economy, whether you're a Grab driver, whether you're anything that needs yourself to rely on to get your income, it's a matter of one, resilience, two, being able to motivate yourself. There is a big difference though, because in the past compared to now, there are a lot more opportunities now to make money as an individual. In the past, and we're talking about in early 2000s, that's when I went and started, when I left my job to pursue my career. The opportunities were a lot less. The competition was a lot more fierce because there weren't that many jobs in terms of my industry.
So it's a small pie and
yeah, and we talk about, this is Kuala Lumpur at the time, yeah. So remember, the industry was also still growing then, and this was almost 30 years ago. And yes, there would be once you and the one thing I was always asked, how do you do it? You just got to keep going to those auditions, whether it was for an acting gig or whether it was for a commercial. I was lucky in the sense of I was in a hit TV sitcom
early on.
Very, very much earlier, which was, which was the reason why I quit my job, because I felt that I had an opportunity to pursue a career in it's not just the arts, but in television. But it was a big risk because I didn't know how long this show was going to last. Because for all we know, it could have bombed after 2 seasons and then back to square one. Where do I go?
Did you ever have doubts?
I was. That's the thing about me when I was much younger. I had big balls at the time. I didn't care. I remember my mum asking, "It's like, what are you going to do? You don't have a monthly salary." I said, "I don't know, but if I don't try, I'll regret it." And that drove me. And because of that confidence, I always told myself, and it's almost like manifestation, I guess. You always tell yourself, "Don't worry, the next job's always going to be there. The next job's always going to be there." And I was so confident with myself that I told myself, this is what's going to happen. But you also learn along the way that within that industry, there were other niche jobs that you never thought of. So when I was doing blah, 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 and then you a certain job, and then you meet someone and goes, "Oh, what are you doing?" I said, "Oh, I'm doing a voiceover." I'm like, "Oh, it's a job?" I said, "Yeah, you just get paid." At the time it was like 10 ringgit a second. I said, "How do I get into that?" And it's like, oh, suddenly there was another avenue for you to be able to find another part where you can make money from it. Obviously, you had to go for audition and all that, but I just went for it anyway, whether I got the job or not.
Did you ever have like low points?
Of course. There were points very low points where I didn't know where I was going to get my next job, and I think the longest was probably about 3 months or something like that. But 3 months when you don't have anything, you're sitting down there like eating Maggi Mee or I didn't know how to make bread then. I know how to make bread now. I should have learned to make bread then. But well, you needed money to buy the thing anyway. But we had saved enough to make sure that and that's one thing. A lot of people are like, "Hey, I go and spend this," but we were like, I got to be able to pay my rent, and I wasn't living at home. I could have stayed home, and I mean, logically, that would have been the best thing. You don't have to spend anything, but obviously, help pay your parents for the laundry and blah 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 and all that. But it would have been cheaper if I'd been living by myself.
So how do you get through those low points?
You just need to keep looking for the jobs or creating something. There were times where I'd be sitting there, but I'd still go out. I'd still go out and meet people. And the one thing in those days, unlike now, you can put yourself out there on social media and remind people who you are and what you do. And in those days, we was going to events. So any event that was around, you had to show your face because you are your own product. And if you don't market yourself, no one will know. People forget easily, trust me, in this industry. And so I had to be out there. You had to pretty much like prostitute yourself in the industry. Attend all the fashion events, go to this promotion event, get yourself invited to some launch and all that. We even and in those days, you could even earn money by appearing as a celebrity. It wasn't that much money, but it's still something. We have the celebrity turns up, hi, this and that and the other. And from those events is when I got my emceeing jobs as well.
Oh.
So by turning up, it's like suddenly there was another opportunity and goes, oh, I can do this. Or at least I can try to do this. And like, have you ever tried being an MC? I'm like, oh, no, I haven't. I was, for a number of years, I was the MC for the Clio Bachelor. No, there used to be a magazine called Clio Magazine, and they used to have the 50 most eligible bachelors. I was one of those bachelors in KL.
Number one?
I was number one, but I didn't win. I was number one on the thing. Oh, okay. This is 1999. It was doing promo for Kopitiam at the time. Okay. And then subsequently, I became an MC for the Bachelor because I knew the bachelors. and I became one of the co-hosts of co-MCs.
So you were constantly marketing yourself,
You had to,
pimping yourself out. Yeah.
because that's part and parcel of the job. You can't just sit there when nowadays these guys have their managers and all that. But we learned to manage ourselves. We learned to promote ourselves. We learned to be able to really put ourselves out there, because that was the only way to market yourself. But I was also very, I had already in the past worked in an event company. So we used to manage all these people.
Yeah.
We'll get the celebrities, we'll get the talent to do stuff for events, the singers and all that. I remember when we did, it was 98, I think the launch of the new logo for Celcom, we had Innuendo. So we were managing them because we hired them. So it wasn't something new that I've learned, but by watching them or managing them, I knew how to manage myself. So when I was growing up early in this industry, I had to wear two hats. So I had to be the bad cop. It was so funny because it's the same client. I would be negotiating my fees with them and be the bad person, needs to be signed, blah blah blah. And then when I'm doing the job, I say hi. So yeah, I was good cop and bad cop at the same time. But like I said, in those days it was different because we had to fend for ourselves, and because of that, we know how to handle. Nowadays, I don't have to worry about having to manage myself because I know how to do it.
I mean, it sounded like you had a really good run. Like Kopitiam was your first audition and you got your first job, right? And then you had all these other roles and then maybe a 3-month dry spell. Have you ever suffered from imposter syndrome before? Like, did you ever doubt, like,
Every
am
day.
I this good? Every day?
Every day until today, I'm like, they say fake it to make it. You always ask yourself, like, what am I doing here? Am I really that good? Do I deserve to be here?
Yeah.
It's like, but again, at the end of the day, it's the audiences who will be I wouldn't be your judge, but if they like it, then you must be doing something right.
Yeah.
There have been days even when I'm on stage, because as an actor, especially a stage actor, you go, am I really, have I really immersed myself in my job that people believe that I am who I am?
Yeah.
I played a role once when I was an abusive boyfriend,
Yeah.
and that was really painful because I had to really slap the girl and all that. I'm not the person who does that, but I really immersed myself in the role that during the play.
Yeah.
After the play, women were giving me daggers. I'm like, oh, did I really do your job so well?
Yeah.
That and I remember one run, the one night I had this one night I always had to step, and I accidentally slapped my fellow actress,
Yeah.
and I could tell because her face went red, and she's like
She was
almost
mad.
got angry at me,
Yeah.
but she was playing and for the first time I heard this nervous laughter from a lady, and I was thinking to myself, oh my God, had I just hit a raw point, because this lady must have experienced
Got through it
exactly
before, yeah.
what happened to her. But then again you go, okay, and I apologize after that, but you always ask yourself, are we really doing our job, or are we just all faking it all the way? And you know what?
Are we going to have a name?
No, I don't know her. I didn't know the lady, but
No, I mean the actress that you
actress.
slapped.
Oh yes, Sutan. We call her Rock. She does a lot of work in Singapore now. She's quite famous actress in Singapore. She's also a writer. I think she also helped write for Kopitiam as well. But yeah, she's a really good actress. Yeah, Rock. Sutan.
So obviously you've pivoted here and there, and then there's pretty much a non-linear career path. They brought you back to Sarawak again. Like, has it been really out of your comfort zone
Coming
to
back
be
to
back
Sarawak.
here again? Yeah.
Yes. We're very different here. We're still, as much as we've been, the industry's been around. I mean, we've had what do you call it? Hollywood movies, blah blah blah, and all that. But the crew has always come from Semenanjung.
Yeah.
We've been, and it's so sad because we've been we've never had a transfer of knowledge. Again, we've had NTV7 in the past. NTV7 was a Sri Lankan channel. We now have TVS and all that. But I don't think there's been much of a transfer of knowledge of late. We're still young in that sense. There's still a bit of naivety in terms of how we approach our work. It is no fault of anyone, it's just experience. Again, they have to, and this is no criticism, but you must acknowledge our people like me, our experience. We're not saying we're the best, but we have a heck of a lot of experience that we can impart and help you transfer the knowledge more smoothly and be able to move us to the future a lot better. I mean, yes, you can get experts from Semenanjung and all that, but why not utilize people like us who've come back, who've been sort of, hearing the call of the Premier to come back and be able to, it's all parts of the industry. It's not just the hydrogen and all that. All that needs to be promoted. Who will promote it? Our industry. You can have the best products and all that, but if no one promotes it, who's going to hear about it? It's so important to have the industry that we have, because we're the ones who make it look good. We make that imparts all this news. We talk about the news. That is our industry. So without the news, without the promotion, who's gonna promote your stuff? What, internally? They don't have the expertise. You need the networking. You need you're gonna get all the foreign guys to be doing all the time for you. And we don't archive our own achievements. We're going to end up having to buy that archive from the foreigners, just to it's like our old history. A lot of the old history, where do we get it from? From foreign companies who've done production here, and we have to buy back that information. That's quite sad.
So you obviously have a PR company here. I remember during my short stint in a PR company, like there was always this question, like, how do you explain what you actually do, right? I mean, I think it might be a lot harder for people here. I mean, do you see that they haven't really seen the value in like this kind of industry and just kind of the other things that you do?
Well, as you know, public relations or PR communications, whatever you want to name it, has evolved so much since the early days of how we viewed public relations. People always look now public relations as crisis management. I don't see it like that as much. Yes, that's the old, I wouldn't say the old way of thinking. Crisis management has always been around because you work alongside. As a PR company, you would represent the company, because a lot of it, what happens with especially the big companies is when they're trying a PR exercise, it's always internal. So always how good we are, it's always from an internal point of view. And the thing about having to, trumpet your achievements internally, people go, well, of course you'll trumpet yourself internally, but you get an external consultant who will have more research in terms of how the audience sees you and be a bit more neutral. It helps because they will give you, help you promote your company from a different point of view, but understand that they've done enough of the research to understand what the audience wants to hear from the actual company that's trumpeting their own achievements. And that's one thing I think a lot of the companies don't understand. Is that why do we need other people to tell us how good we are? We know we're good. So yeah, you're good, but you're preaching to the choir, is it? Not to the people who actually, for example, if it's an electrical company, like, oh, we do this and that, but your customers are still complaining. That means you're not listening to what they're saying. But you listen to what they're saying, and then you take on board. The PR company goes, we listen to what you're saying. The company's doing this, and has that buffer. anything happens, you can always hire and fire the PR company, ma. So it's not, oh, they did it wrong. So in a way, we also have our reputation, but we are protecting your reputation without you getting burned. Anything happens, we help you with the crisis, and then be your buffer whilst you try and sort things out. And we do the firefighting. That's where the PR comes in. In the modern sense of PR is now, why don't we take over your social media, your content, and we help narrate and curate for you as a company to be able. So you, of course, they will have their communications department. So we will work alongside that communication department, so they don't have to be bogged down by having to always create and think of new ways of doing stuff, because you have that other consultant to help you do that. So you can still focus on your internal stuff, but at the same time, from a company point of view, or rather from international view, the PR company can help you build that for you. And that is so beneficial to any company that wants to get done, because at the end of the day, they are looking at it from an external point of view and help you build your brand, build your identity, build your product, so that you don't have to, so you can move forward and just focus on building, on getting your product up and running. So that's the long answer to it, I guess.
Oh, great. Well, I mean, obviously you left your comfort zone in KL to come here, and in many ways, it's almost starting again. So based on your short experience so far, do you feel like it is? How do you feel about like getting jobs here? Are there enough jobs, and do you feel there are gatekeepers as well?
There are enough jobs. Again, it's no fault of anyone here that they're gatekeepers, I think, because there is this fear of someone always trying to take over your job. But there's a big difference between someone taking your job and someone being a consultant to the job that you have. And the one thing that people need to realize here is that we're not here to take over your job. We're here to enhance your job. We're here to enhance your position, so that if you're seen to be able to work with somebody who has the expertise, isn't that good that you are delegating the work so that you can just manage instead of having to do the work? It's like work smart instead of work hard. If a lot of the bigger companies, like for example, I don't know, Apple, whatever.
Yeah.
A lot of of course they have a very strong marketing team, but you can't do it just from the US. They employ other marketing agencies, other PR agencies outside, because it depends on where your market is. They'll have a different strategy when they're in Southeast Asia. Yeah. Here, it's the same thing. You want to go international, but how do you go international? You don't know what it's like. So you get an agency who will do all that work for you, pay them to go do that work for you, and then give you the findings. So, okay, we'll do that. Because when you start trying to figure out how to go international, but you still haven't got your own brand, your own product sorted out, then you've got so much work to do. Whereas you engage someone externally to do that job for you, it can be a short term, 1 year, 2 years. At least you've got that 1-2 years of somebody else doing your work for you. So it's just delegating the work. Again, they want to go international. You have the budget, do it.
So are you saying it's difficult?
I'm not saying it's difficult. I wouldn't say it's difficult. It's just that it's not. They're not. I wouldn't say educated enough. They just don't have. They just don't know it yet. I think, but inevitably it will have to be done. One thing I have a lot of discussions with PR, my fellow, I wouldn't say colleagues, my friends in Semenanjung, who have said they found it difficult to penetrate into East Malaysia because people in East Malaysia seem to think they don't need it. But when they do go to Semenanjung, they engage a PR company. So why don't you just engage one from home first, and then we work alongside? Again, who knows?
So for people like trying to work in the like creative industry, whether it's like marketing, film, TV, events, I mean, what kind of mentality that would you advise?
I was asked this once. You got to be thick-skinned. As an actor, yes. In marketing, you've got to believe in your own, not hype. You have to believe in yourself. You got to be able to just go there and just do the job and convince yourself first that you know what you're talking about. Especially when you're armed with all the information that you research or do, you just got to be able to go, this is what I'm doing. But there's a lot of, you've got to keep learning though. Like any job. But yeah, you got to be thick-skinned because people are going to throw all sorts of things and say all sorts of things to you. And if you start getting too emotional about it, I remember when I was younger, I was like, people would say all sorts of things about me. It's like you just have to laugh it off because, growing up in the UK, the amount of things people say being racist and all that, yeah, I think that sort of helped me build my skin even more thicker. And when I was in the industry, especially when you're acting, people will say all sorts of things. And I tell you what, they're nasty things, but they're just saying it because they're so afraid of you. And you tell yourself that, like they're afraid of you. You must be doing something right for people to be afraid of your presence.
So the solution to like imposter syndrome, the loneliness, the doubt, all that is just having a thick ass skin.
Thick ass skin, yeah. It is. But also always believing in your own abilities. In the long run, if you don't believe that you can do the job, you shouldn't be where you are. Whatever crisis that you face, I suppose as I've gotten older, I'm a lot more calmer. In terms of having to face stuff, and the many crises that you face, it's just a matter of. When I was younger, I used to panic. You go, what do I need to do? And the more you panic, the more you can't find solutions. But as the older I've become, we're always going to face with these kind of situations. How do you fix it, or how do you stop and go? All right, what do I need to do next? Because you need to. Because you need to be calm about it. Personal stuff, a bit different lah. But when it comes to the business and all that, you have to think. Because it's not just affecting you, but, your colleagues, your staff, and all that. So even if things are right there and you have a short time to figure it out, you still need to be calm and be rational about it, or else, if it doesn't work, then so be it. If it works, then do it. But you must take a very rational stance toward it and be very calm about it, because what to do?
Yeah. On that note?
Well, on that note, that was, which I think can go a lot more in depth into the business. Of course, one day we will talk about Timor-Leste.
Yeah.
One day, but for now, we're going to take, a break from there. But for myself, Rashid Saleh, and of course Jason Sim, the coaching guide, this was the RSS, and we'll see you again the next time. Bye.